All right, everyone. Welcome once again to the Faces of Business. I'm your host, Damon Pistolka, and I am excited today. Chuck Coxhead with me today, and we are going to be talking about something that I am very passionate about, and that is how you can build a great business by really understanding your target market and delivering something that others simply can't with the operations behind you. So, Chuck, welcome. Glad to have you here.
Thanks, Damon. I'm so glad to be here. You were a busy guy, and I just love the opportunity to get some of your time to be able to chat like this.
It's so fun. You know, when we got to talk a while back, you explained to me something about a company we'll talk about a little bit, and two, then the college where you went to school. I mean, both engineers. It's a good, you know, this could get pretty nerdy pretty fast, but we'll keep it I guess normal crowd friendly if we can.
Whatever works for me.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your background. First of all, Chuck, I kind of like to give people a flavor from what you've done a little bit of, and then we'll start working through some of the things we discussed.
Sure thing. So I went to Lehigh University. I'm an industrial engineer by education, and I very quickly, as a lot of industrial engineers do, you very quickly find yourself in manufacturing.
Yeah.
And I worked in the industrial rotating equipment company. I was working on in chemical, working on products for chemical factories, that sort of thing. I had a secret clearance for, Navy vessels to be able to put rotating equipment on it. And it progressed from there. And I have been a 30-year plus manufacturing professional, but I've had what someone recently helped me to understand, a nonlinear career. That I've done so many different things in manufacturing organizations, so I started out, product engineering manager, and I rolled out computer-aided drawing and manufacturing software for them early on, and then I went into, it was on the shop floor doing CNC programming, a big, huge, horizontal mill. And then from there, after getting my fill in that industrial engineering, I actually went to a different company and started in sales. Dad said, Chuck, you got a personality for it. He didn't know anything about sales, but you got a personality for it. And I said, all right, Dad. I gave it a shot, did that, moved out to Chicago, got promoted, but it wasn't really for me, and I wanted high tech. So I found the biggest opportunity in the world at that time. We all know the big companies in the stock market. In 1997 and 98, it was Lucent Technologies, and I was on helping build and develop the lasers, not myself, but on the development team to basically power the internet backbone. And that parlayed into more manufacturing, and that was, the manufacturing and development team that, went into high frequency RF signals, where I have been in sales and marketing. And then I was running a manufacturing company where I was responsible for everything: finance, people, sales, marketing, inventory, shipping, the whole 9 yards. And now I'm here. I did a couple other things along the way in sales and marketing, worked for a company in Ireland. Here I am working for Procensis now. I'm having the time of my life. So it's very nonlinear.
Yeah. Well, I think the background, I mean, what it does, I think, when you see people that have nonlinear backgrounds, not only from positions within manufacturing, but also industry sectors and types of companies, sizes of companies, is you have a much broader view of the world or the ecosystem that you work in. And I think that's a real benefit to wherever you go, in the fact that you've seen how the great big companies doing it. You've seen how the smaller companies do it. You've seen how they do it in different industries, and you can put the best of all into where you're at now.
Yeah. Well, and even the cross-functional responsibility, when, so much of my time I've spent selling to design engineers. Well, I've lived a design engineering role. Okay. I've had design engineering people working for me. So I can sort of live what they've lived. I've lived in an operations role. So when I'm working with those folks, I understand what some of their challenges may be. And I've been a user of a lot of different technology, like say right down on the shop floor. Heck, I used to drive a forklift
Yeah.
I'm a warehouse related business now. Well, I spent, Christmas breaks driving forklifts and loading trucks. I probably wasn't allowed. I didn't have a cert back then,
Yeah.
but,
Yeah.
man, we put in a lot of late nights loading a lot of trucks.
Yeah. Yeah. That's no doubt. That's no
Yeah.
doubt. Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. So along the way, that when we were talking, first of all, Lehigh University, it's a beautiful little university. I just love it. It's so funny that I was to the one university on the East Coast that you went to, and I saw that. It was an interesting fact, but it's a beautiful place up there. I just love it. Just love it. So that's cool. But when we were talking, you talked about a company that you had worked at. It was Koaxis.
Mm-hmm.
And you were in there, and really, this is something that I've been fortunate enough to be able to do. But while you were there, you really understood that there was a market need, and you basically went back and rebuilt the organization to solve that market need. And can you kind of explain? And some people that have not experienced this before won't understand what I'm really saying right now. So can you kind of explain to someone that hasn't been through this before, how you got to that process and just decided that, hey, let's redo our operations to do this?
So the cool part, with every one of these things, it's not a one-man thing. The owner of the company was still my friend today. I talked to him this week, even though I've been gone for a year.
Nice.
And, it's you have to have an incredible sponsor that believes, and have similar values. I've been blessed to have that many times in my career. And he was done. He had built this beautiful, successful business. They make RF cables. What's an RF cable? It's made for high frequency signals. You use them on the back of your cable box if you still have one. Okay, connecting from the cable company but that's actually what he used to do. He used to work in his cable TV market, which a lot of that business migrated offshore.
Yeah.
So this fellow realized that he needed to change his business. So he began to hire some people that gave him some talent in a different aspect of that business. And crazy guy thought he wanted me in that team too. So I came there, and his goal really was to bring folks on, take it in a little new direction, but he was going to take a part-time role. And that's a really important part of the story.
Yes.
Because when we were done with it, he didn't want to be part-time anymore. We made it really exciting again. And that cable that sticks out of the back of your cable box, it's not all that exciting. It's just boring.
Yeah.
But we made the business exciting again for him. And don't get me wrong, believe me, he was there every day. But what we recognized is that what was lacking in the business in that industry is availability. These cables, they break, and they break at the worst times, the very worst times.
Yes.
And so now somebody's stuck, or they forget one. They might be using 600 of them, and they forget the one that's 13 inches long, and they got a delivery to make, and they're stuck. Lead times in the business are 8, 12 weeks or more.
Wow.
Now you got a guy who wasn't in this aspect of this business, this different part of a similar market. How do you get noticed? It's really hard. You have to have some sort of comparative advantage where you're doing something innovative and better than everyone else. So we recognize, plain and simple, that is about speed. Speed is more important in this case than price. It's in some cases it's more important than performance, and this is a very performance-based business. That's kind of blasphemy to say that, but in some cases it really was. But we said, if we can come up with a way to get these faster than anybody in the world, okay, we can really make something here. Well, you can get these things from distribution. They can ship the same day. And you can get them in 12 inches, and you can get them, in 6 inches, and you can get them in 18 inches. But what if you need 11? You can't get them anywhere. Yeah. It takes 8 or 12 weeks or whatever it took.
Yeah.
So we said, well, what if we could do that, and we could make these things custom order, and we could ship them? And I postulated, I want them to ship in 2 days. Yeah. Custom made. You give me an order, I'm going to ship it in 2 days. and they have not missed a shipment. We started that in 2014. They have not missed a Ready 48 shipment. Now,
Yeah.
And that kind of set the world on fire. This company was nobody in this aspect of this RF cable space. Nobody knew who they were.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we coupled it with something else too. So we made this awesome tool. Like I created a custom configurator so that they can do whatever they wanted. It's something that honestly, it was extremely innovative because I could have patented it, but I didn't want to expose the code. And people have tried to copy it and can't.
Yeah.
We came up with a way of doing that. And they can literally build this thing, and we called it build it, see it, buy it. You literally build it and it would appear. Whatever you wanted it to look like. And you couldn't make a mistake. Like you couldn't build the wrong thing. It was all built into it. And I can add components to it very, very quickly. So it was very versatile and could grow with the company as they did more and more and more.
Yeah.
And then people would just buy these things from e-commerce. Well, first, they didn't trust us. Who are these guys? They're nobody. I don't know these guys. And then we started, somebody took a chance, somebody delivered, and we did it. And then there was also a kind of a fun part. All the directors in the company happen to have a hairdo like mine.
Yeah.
And when you put 5 guys in a magazine ad and all of them are bald or in a trade show, guess what? People notice. So we got ourselves some attention and we had some fun because we're not afraid to laugh.
Yeah.
And we started doing this with a custom e-commerce system. Nowadays, e-commerce is like your ticket to the game.
Yeah.
You don't have e-commerce, you're really in trouble. But just because you have it, this ain't Field of Dreams.
Yes.
They won't necessarily come. You got to have a reason. And that's really where the real fun part of the story comes in. And that's why I really credit my friend Hank Bowen, because he had a philosophy of, how do we run this business? And what was really easy to recognize is that, when I want to achieve 2 days. But when the components used to build this thing aren't available in 2 days, there's only one thing you can do.
Yes.
Have an awful lot of them.
Yeah.
And every CFO that might be listening to this time just got a shiver down their spine because their inventory turns are going to suck.
Yeah.
Okay. But the proof is in the pudding. Because once you start growing the revenue, because you're doing something nobody else can do, even when they're trying to copy you, the revenue comes and the turns are less important. Mm-hmm. And so it's that piece. When your component lead time is longer, substantially longer than your end product lead time, you have to make up the difference with inventory, which means an awful lot of planning, a tremendous amount of planning, unless you have a bunch of boat anchors in boxes.
Yeah.
So, and lo and behold, it worked. They became the talk and the envy of the industry. Now, they're still not a $75 million company. They're still small because they want to be.
Yeah.
Who are these guys? 5 years ago, they were nobody.
Yeah.
Now, all of a sudden, everybody knows the bald guys and they want to buy from Koaxis, and they're getting customers who are getting them hand over fist.
Yes.
And they literally, when a competitor goes, we still can't figure out how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm still not giving it all away.
Yeah.
Because that's not fair to my friend.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
won't do that. But there's still, you recraft the entire business model to meet the need of the industry and the recognized need of the customer. The recognized need of this customer is they're breaking stuff, losing stuff, and they forget stuff, and they need them tomorrow. And they need them custom made. Mm-hmm. So you have to really understand what the heck they want to do and what their real challenges are. And then just not be afraid to craft a solution that's kind of crazy sometimes. Look at Amazon. They're crazy like a fox, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, what you did though, the cool part about this is when you saw the need in the industry and where other people would have looked at the component and said, listen, the lead time's too long. We're not going to be able to do it. Okay. They could have stopped there. And then you would go, well, how are we going to, are they going to send us an order and we're going to have to make sure the order is right? Well, it's not efficient enough because there's always going to be problems if somebody places an order that where they can make a mistake. So you eliminated I'm sure you had to sit there and look at it and go, okay, how the hell are we going to do this in 2 days? And you just looked at, okay, this is what it's at now. And I have to get rid of this problem, this problem, this problem. Mm-hmm. So kind of you don't have to share the intimate details, but kind of explain that, because what was the normal lead time for a custom product before that?
the normal lead time could be 12 weeks.
Yeah. See, so you went from 12 weeks to 2 days.
2 days.
Yeah.
Now for us, don't get me wrong, because of this operating model that we had, our lead time was shorter. So we could do things in, 4 weeks, 2 weeks. But as the product line grew, it required literally billions of combinations of things you can build.
Yeah.
And it required a lot more parts.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to be able to respond as the product line grows, which is really the challenge. And it's not just about inventory. If you think about it, what happens when someone gets an order? This is going to sound very familiar to people that are listening to this. I get the order. Sales reviews it. Sales checks it. It goes. It's handed off down the line. Sometimes engineering verifies it. And then, engineering signs off it. And they hand it over to somebody who might enter the order. And then somebody might create a bill of material. Or maybe those things are reversed. And then it goes out to the shop floor. And then you have someone who's scheduling all this stuff. Not us. That just creates long lead time.
Yes.
Get all the barriers out of the way. And what happens is, I got news for you. This order, when the order came in, shipper knew about it. Production manager knew about it. And we created a number of manufacturing methods, procedures, and tools that I will not discuss.
Yeah.
That allowed them to respond long before any of that other stuff had to happen.
Yeah.
You have to eliminate non-value added operations too.
It's exactly
not just about having parts.
Yeah.
You introduce, because people, they don't trust.
Yes.
And so if you trust your people, you train your people, and you empower them to do the work, and then get out of their way, guess what happens?
Yes.
Really good stuff. And you grow the business at a beautiful, beautiful organic rate.
Well, yeah. I mean, and this is why it connects with me so much. I've had the opportunity to do this a couple times as well in different industries, and taking something that we had was 8 weeks lead time, and we turned it into 10 business days. Not nearly as extreme as what you did with your product, but the similar processes, right? We couldn't let that, and we couldn't let it go to engineering and have the engineers take 3 days to approve it. The designs had to be done ahead of time. And when you said all the components that went into the product had to be either standard components, or they had to be something that we had right there, you had to be able to pull out. And when you look at all this stuff, like you had to do, like you're saying, you don't have time for your product to go into a scheduling queue because you've got 47 million jobs ahead of it and you've got all this WIP. I mean, you have to be building just in time, at least with your section that's making those products. Otherwise, you can't do it in 2 days, because you got 2 days from wherever the actual operation gets done and where you start. Mm-hmm. And the whole business has to be redesigned. So speed, and it's just like, I just drop it right into the next slot, or I've got a dedicated process to do it. And it's all the way through. You can't buy stuff because you have no time. You can't get it there in 2 days. It has to be there. Yeah. And when you look back upstream at the supply chain, all the stuff that you're talking about there is massive.
It's very massive. And you have to know your components. You have to know your business and be, truly a gifted expert. And the good news is you can bestow the gift upon yourself. Just be interested and learn it. You have to. I mean, we understood and understand machined parts at a very detailed level. And I guess that's why this sales guy comes in and is able to help, bring, you have the understanding of the roles in the supply chain. I was a CNC machinist.
Yeah.
I was an industrial engineer. I understand eliminating non-value added operations. I understand how to create new process workflows. It's not just about, hey, the sales guy said we need this. It's about having a full vision and plan. Now, it doesn't take one guy. It wasn't one guy. We have a team of people. Okay. I'm just the bald guy who was the face of the company. I'm the one who had the biggest mouth.
Yeah.
But you have to embrace that and really be willing to take some risk and get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah. But I mean, it's such a great example of where you can really dominate your market with operations that just target and solve that market need that other people look at and go, that's just a problem in our industry.
Just a problem in our industry. That's
just
exactly
a problem
right.
in our industry. And when you look at it and you go, it doesn't have to just be a problem in the industry. I mean, just pick any of these things. You just pick any of the companies that have sprung out of nowhere, and it might not be a good example, but something like the Uber or the Airbnb or some of these that's like, well, it's just, hotel rooms are hotel rooms. Well, people said, no, we can Airbnb and you can have just about whatever experience you want. There's no reason it has to be in a hotel, and just looking at things differently. But the thing that's interesting about this is that when you do something like this with a business, price becomes less important.
That's right.
It's important.
Always.
It's not as important because you solved a problem that they're like sitting there going, this is really going to make things a lot easier.
Yeah. And what it creates is, if there's so much focus on, continuous improvement, lean thinking, and customer satisfaction.
Yep.
They're all great. I mean, industrial engineers, we were lean before they wrote the book in Japan,
Yeah.
So, and all that's great, but they create a sort of, in some ways, they create a sort of rigidity, and you have to be willing to let go and do some things that makes them shudder. And what you end up with is you end up with customer satisfaction, but you end up with something even greater. I far prefer to look at customer loyalty. Customer satisfaction is a subset of loyalty.
Yeah.
It truly is. I want to know that I've put the business in a place where the customers literally say, well, okay, this has got to go out to 3 bids. Well, certainly we're going to go to Koaxis. Okay. But that's just happening. You guys pick the other 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Or better yet, no, they just never let us down. Okay.
Yeah.
And by the way, mistakes happen. Someone taught me, a fellow I used to work for, Dick Leibson, mistakes happen. Keep them small, fix them fast, and just fess up, man.
Yeah.
So just keep them small, fix them fast.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one. Mistakes to keep. And what you're saying though is that customer loyalty, and Andrew Deutsch says this a lot. He does strategic marketing. He says you're creating voracious advocates for your brand, because when you're doing something that's memorable for them, it sticks. It sticks, and it's like brand loyalty to vehicles. There's some people that will not switch brand just because that brand could be just crazy, could be just a feeling, could be whatever. But that loyalty like that you're never going to go, I'm a GM person, or I'm a Ford person, or whatever it is, or Mercedes, doesn't really matter. But the people that are that loyalty that you see in those people like that is what you're creating in a company where people would think, how the hell are you doing that?
Yep. Yeah. And when you do create that loyalty, you do something really cool. You hire salespeople. Your customers become your salespeople, that advocate. And you know what you have to pay them? Nothing. They pay you for the privilege of advocating on your behalf, because everybody wants other people to succeed and enjoy what they're enjoying. It's just true. I do it. You do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so cool, man. So what were some of the key things that you learned when, because it's not, this is, as you said, it takes a lot of people. It takes a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of pain in the ass work to get something like this going. But if someone was sitting here today, listening to this and said, oh, that's great, but what do you think some of the things you learned?
Everyone is Missouri. They're all the show me state. Boy, I hope I didn't mess that up. Pennsylvania, New Jersey, the Garden State. Yeah, I think it's the show me state.
It is.
Okay. You got to, explaining this stuff conceptually on a podcast is hard.
Oh yeah.
People learn different ways. They learn visually. They learn, some are auditory learners. They just hear stuff and they get it. They're show offs, honestly. And kinesthetic, where they got to experience it. So you come up with a concept, you've got to make it visual. You've got to, and you have to have passion and really think things through. so that it can become real for them.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And most importantly, then you have to win them over. And one of the greatest ways you can win them over is to brainstorm. And I have this saying I like to use. I like to give everyone permission to erase the whiteboard. You know, you've all been in those meetings. They're drawing up on the whiteboard, and we're going to do things this way, and we're taking notes, and we're doing all that stuff. Everybody has to have permission to say, wait a minute. May I have permission to erase the whiteboard? And what that says, let's drop all of our preconceived notions about everything that we think we are constrained by. And let's start over. Does that mean we're going to start over? No. We're only looking at a whiteboard, okay? We haven't pulled the trigger on anything yet.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get into that attitude, first, I mean, I did it once. I think it's best done over a round table, preferably with beer, because somebody will say something silly after about the second beer.
Yeah.
And it only takes one person to go, hey, you know what? You got something there. Maybe if we just tweak it this much, we can come up with something great. And I love that process. Now, I'm an opinionated guy, okay? As many people who do such things and, you know, have director roles and things like that tend to be. You're very opinionated. But I love that process. And I love to bring the other people's ideas and try and make them fruition. Sometimes you just let them do the idea because they came up with it. And I have been surprised that I have learned that sometimes when I thought, heck with it, I'm just going to let them do it. And it was like, oh, wow, they're awesome. And we love the idea, and it's happened. So you have to show it, and you have to bring other people, and you have to find a way to be able to bring them into the process. That's where that business process guy benefits from the skills of a salesman.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Needs assessment, collaboration, you know, addressing multiple people in the team and that sort of thing. And again, it doesn't need to be one person.
Yeah.
You bring your salesman in and let him ask all the crazy questions, right? He's used to doing that and he likes it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's cool though, because I think you hit the one thing or two things actually, and then I wrote down a couple, but permission to erase. Mm-hmm. I like that because you really have to be ready to start over.
You do.
And to rethink it from the ground up. And when you do that though, and you do, like you said, people sitting around a round table having a couple beers, and someone comes up with that one catalyst idea, and I'm not even using the right word, but that idea that just sparks it and said, if we do this, everything else falls in. And in theory of constraints, they call it a lever point or something like that. I can't remember, but you find that one thing, and you know, like the market problem obviously is a lever point. And then when you come into the business and you start doing that, there's, you know, a lever point or two that you hit those, and then you start asking people, okay, we have this idea that really got everyone else going. Then you start asking the question, okay, that's great. And someone will say, but, and if you stop there, everything stops. Where you say, okay, great. That's a problem. How do we solve that? Mm-hmm. And then you just go, how do we solve that? And how do we solve that? And pretty soon as those things come away, it's the crazy thing about it is what you can do. Like you've talked about your 8 weeks or 12 weeks, whatever, on your lead time down to 2 days. When you start looking at it as not, we can't do it but we need to do, what do we need to solve to do it? And just start checking them off. It's like the lead time and those self-imposed limitations just fall away. And you see, like you said, some of these people that you would never, you may never think, they just start to just gravitate toward this, and the collaboration and stuff is crazy cool when it happens.
Well, I'm bringing you back to Lehigh University, whether you like it or not. But I'm not really. It's like a master's thesis or a PhD thesis, right? Yeah. You pose a question, okay, and then you create that argument. Okay. So in this case, the thesis was, in my mind, How are we going to do this the way the customers want it? We're going to do it in 2 days. Better than anybody else. Okay. Now that's not very defined. I probably wouldn't get past kindergarten with that kind of thesis, but that's ultimately what we were trying to do. And we were never able to prove it wrong because we were just not afraid to continue to march toward that goal as a team. And if someone went outside the lines, that was cool. It was our job as a team to bring them back in. And believe me, when I said we wanted to do this, there were some people, there were some bald guys were like, what?
You're not crazy. You're crazy. Yeah.
And they became believers.
Yeah.
Now, we may not have, right? This is one success story, right? But so what if you don't fully succeed and you get 80% of the way there?
That's just it.
Touchdown.
That's just it. It is. And that kind of thinking. And when you get into an organization like that and you start doing this and once you complete something like that, then that team feels like they can take on the world because they've done something that they never thought they were able to do. And, what happens after that sometimes eclipses what you thought was crazy before just because they have that confidence. They've worked together through those tough decisions and things to really make something good. The next evolution of whatever they do can even be more powerful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you're not growing, if you're not evolving, innovating, man, you're dying.
You're dying.
That's it. I didn't invent that, but I surely believe it.
Yeah, because it's true. And when you see the teams do this and you work through it, it's amazing. It's amazing. And the thing that I always see when I talk to people is they're saying, oh, I'm a CNC machining place, whatever, blah, blah, blah. We just do it like everybody down the street. Okay, that's fine. What you did, what you talked about in your example I did, was not a lot about the product. You made the same product.
No.
It was not a lot about the actual process of putting it together. Mm-hmm. Not so much. Sometimes you have to change a design or something, but it's how you did business around that solved that market problem. So you can be a contract manufacturer and do things that solve a market problem. It can be as simple as I'm a contract manufacturer and I keep track of my customers' inventory so they never have to place an order. They don't. They want 5 on the shelf at all times, and we check it every day electronically, and it tells them they've got 4. So I put another one on there the next day. That's the kind of stuff. That's the kind of stuff. So let's talk a little bit about what you're doing now, because I think what you're doing now is awful cool too. And it kind of relates to this because you're helping people doing the same kind of thing in their own organizations, but helping them with their inventory and warehousing solutions.
Yeah. So we basically provide mobile wearable computing solutions and barcode scanners to warehouses.
Yeah.
I mean, I sell cell phones.
Yeah.
But I don't sell cell phones. This is not the iPhone you get down at the Apple store. This is not the Samsung phone that you get at the Costco or the Best Buy. This is a ruggedized device. It's very purpose-built. Mm-hmm. This passes military standard ruggedization and impact tests because it's being used in a warehouse. And if I'm getting off a forklift and I drop that thing onto a concrete floor,
that's no good.
But that's not really what we do.
Yeah.
We run a video where we demonstrate these things. And at the end of the video, it says, we're scanning, and we actually improve the process. And that's where the similarity to the stories that we've been talking about to what I do really comes in now. I'm not a smartphone guy. I don't sell this. I sell time. I sell time saved. I sell accuracy improvements. I sell safety. I sell user experience for their workers. And I help them to alleviate issues with their labor. There's a labor shortage now for a lot of reasons. And I've been into a customer where the manager of the warehouse said, I've got some of my best people. They actually they have 2 jobs. One at the warehouse up the street and one for me. God bless them. They're working really, really hard. And guess what? They're comparing life in this job and this job. Can I make more money? Is it more enjoyable? So this dumb cell phone, and there's nothing dumb about it. I love this thing.
Yeah.
If it's the very best experience for that worker in one job, okay, they're going to have an easier time retaining and getting the best employees. And if they go over to an antiquated system with paper, okay, they're not even going to be interested. Not only that, because the quantity and the velocity of products through the supply chain has increased so dramatically, they've, compensation systems have graduated to incentive compensation, and the best workers can make 50% more money.
Wow.
Well, they're looking at the tools that are going to allow them to make more money.
Yeah.
So we're not selling smartphones. We're selling problems to their throughput and their labor and getting the best people, in a sense. So it's really about understanding, again, it's what is the customer's challenges? What are they going through? Okay. Now, what do these things do with these barcode scanners? This has got a barcode scanner. And, it's going to scan from a very long distance. It happens to be made by a company called Honeywell, tiny little company with the best scan engine in the world, But they do these things, and it enables them to communicate real time with their warehouse management system or their ERP. Okay. And it's wearable. Formerly you have these big they're on a handle. A lot of people have actually seen them, believe it or not. A lot of people would recognize them, and they do that, and they punch in with the buttons, and they scan, and then they put it down, and then they pick something up and they move it, and then they go, oh, wait a minute, it's back here, and they go back 4 feet because they set it down over here, and then they pick it up and they push the buttons and they scan and they put it down. But when you go to wearable, man, and I'm just putting it on the palm, you put it on the back of your hand, you use a scanner that's mounted to the back of your wrist. These stay free all day long. Your focus is there. Okay. And when I'm not distracted, I'm less likely to get hurt. I'm less likely to make a mistake. I'm less likely to scan the wrong bin, like the ones behind me here. Oops. Okay. I'm less likely to count. But again, I'm just talking about the hardware.
Yes.
Okay. Like the last one, I was making RF cables, and we designed a software system that allowed the customers to be self-sufficient. In this case, we want to make that user experience as amazing as possible. All those things I talked about. Well, what if you only have to push the button once instead of 4 times? Well, we take that software interface and we remove those buttons. And we basically cut that particular piece of time by 75%.
Yeah.
Multiplied by 25,000 transactions a day in a busy place.
Yeah.
Well, that adds up to hours. But you have to understand the process. You have to be able to go into a warehouse, understand, one, what are the systems that they're using? How do they work? What do they typically see? What's the equipment that they typically use? And what's their biggest struggle? Their biggest struggle is they can't get the workers. They can't get the throughput. They make very little in terms of margin. Every penny matters. And so you have to have a deep understanding of what that market and what those individual users, and by the way, when you can get these into the hand with the proper interface, okay, into the warehouse workers' hands, they go, yeah, this is what I got to have. Okay. Why? Because they're already used to the cell phone.
Yes.
I can pull out my iPhone, right? And they're used to the iPhone. Well, this is the same thing. My mom uses one of these things. So she's not going to care if she has to use one in the workplace. It's familiar. And they love this stuff. But you have to have a very deep understanding. Who would talk about labor in the context of a freaking, cell phone computer? But that is a real problem, and you have to understand it. And that's one of the biggest problems we're solving right now is labor. And that is nearly a direct quote from one of our customers.
Yeah. So. It's amazing though, like you said, you're when you look at operations and you look at the market challenges, there are, and I like your example, all the examples, right? Really, but you're just doing what you did, not just, but you're doing what you did before in a different setting with a different set of tools, applying the same principles. And the thing that's so cool about that is that you're doing it. I think it's awesome what you're doing with Procensis. And I think that people that are listening to this need to understand that their industry is not so bland that they can't do this. I don't care if you're a lawyer. I don't care if you're a doctor. I don't care if you're running a manufacturing company. There are things that you can do with the way that you run your business and how you do the things you do that can drastically set you apart from, like you said, efficiency standpoint here that we're talking about in warehouse operations, by understanding all the little steps that go into doing what you do and doing them all better, or picking this section and doing them drastically better.
I was talking with a guy today. It's our finance leasing partner who was sitting at my desk, and he was trying to, and he doesn't have widgets to move. Okay, it's purely we are a service organization and we handle product, right? So we have, the last company was just product. This guy is straight up service. That's all he does. He helps folks to finance this equipment that we do, and he wants to make his presentations better. So I said, well, yeah, if you want to be different and you want to be noticed, well, then yeah, sure, you can totally do that. Okay, you can make yourself, so much better just by doing a little work, and you can wow people even in your business, and then you can do all kinds of neat stuff. Now, this isn't the time for me to show that stuff off, but that's the way this conversation went. It doesn't matter what your business is. You've got to find a way to innovate so that you can be noticed, you can be memorable, and you can deliver in a way that really satisfies the customers.
Yes. And that's 100% it. It just, the ways when you look at a business from the customer point of view and how it would be much better only if they could do this as well or deliver it that way, or do, it is a game changer. It's just a game changer. I don't know how else to say it but that.
And a little name drop again to Andrew Deutsch, who, helped kick me along with this little thing I just did on the screen. So,
yeah. Oh, no doubt. His video stuff is nuts. I'm still trying to get it. I'm closer, but I'm still trying to get it, but it's great stuff. Well, Chuck, it's been awesome talking to you today, man. It is. I am so excited when I get to talk to somebody that really has understand and gone through the process of dominating their market by solving an industry need, by changing their business operations to focus on that, and really, as you said, creating advocates for their brand, raving fans, and really solving some market problems. So if people want to get a hold of you, though, I always like to make sure that if somebody wants to talk to you about this or something else, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
The best way to get a hold of me, you can get straight to me on LinkedIn. I've got a wide open profile. Chuck Coxhead. I am very open to connections, and I actually like to talk to people. See how I can help them. I'm not out to sell you anything, honestly. That's just not me. You can also learn about Procensis at procensis.com. But honestly, behind that, we're all just people, and it's right back to talking to people. And that's the best way to learn. One-to-one.
Yeah. Great. Well, Chuck, I'm so appreciative of you stopping by. And I mean, I think your examples of Koaxis and then here now at Procensis, and just understanding that customer's needs and then just streamlining your business to meet those needs is such a key ingredient that we can all practice.
Thank you so much.
You bet. Have a great day. Everyone else, thanks again for joining us. We will be back again next Tuesday with more guests talking about, I don't know, but I'm sure it'll be something interesting, because as I usually do, I've completely forgotten what next week holds. And that's what happens when you're a calendar zombie. So thanks everyone for joining us today. Thanks, Chuck. We'll be back again.
Thanks, David. Take care.